I'm Miranda, and welcome to my Malifaux battle report. Today I will be playing Neverborn in a 50 Soulstone scrap against the Guild. We flipped for deployment and got flank. For the strategy, we pulled squatters' rights. 5 30mm squat markers have been placed along the center line of the table. At the end of each turn after the first, a crew earns 1 victory point if it has claim to at least 2 squat markers. For the scheme pool, the guild player had the option of frame for murder, bodyguard, outflank, breakthrough, and a line in the sand. For Neverborn, the options pulled were exactly the same. The guild's crew is led by Perdita Ortega, with Francisco as her henchman. She also has Papa Loco, Santiago, Nino, a guild Austringer, and the judge. Perdita has the upgrades Aura Ancestral and Badge of Office. The judge has the upgrade Lead-Lined Coat. Perdita has a Soulstone pool of 3. Neverborn's crew is led by Pandora, accompanied by 2 Sorrows, her henchmen Candy, Baby Cade, and Teddy. Pandora brought the upgrades Cry for Me, Fugue State, and The Box Opens. Candy has the upgrade Best Behavior. Baby Cade has the upgrade Depression. And Teddy has the upgrade Pact. Pandora has a Soulstone pool of 7. My opponent won the flip and chose for me to go first. I deploy with Pandora, a Sorrow, and Candy behind a wall. To the other side of the building, Baby Cade hugs the wall. Teddy and the other Sorrow are behind a forest. My opponent deploys with the judge, Francisco, and Santiago at the edge of the deployment zone. Perdita stays back at the edge of the table. On the far left flank, Papa Loco and Nino skirt the nearby fence. The guild Austringer is behind a building. Turn 1. For the draw phase, we each pull 6 cards. I got lucky with some high cards and the red joker. My opponent was less lucky and only had weak to moderate damage cards. We flipped for initiative and the guild player won, but had me go first. Candy double walks past the center line and targets Papa Loco with Whale. He is within the 8-inch range, but gets a hard cover bonus because he is behind a fence. Candy spends a Soulstone to call the Tomb's Suit and flips 2 cards, taking the lowest and adding it to her casting ability of 5. Her total for the attack is 6. Papa Loco flips 1 card for defense and adds the total to his willpower. His total is a 14, so the attack fails. Candy then uses her 0 action to run away home and is buried. Papa Loco activates and performs Hold This, targeting Nino to give him a positive flip to damage until his next activation. Papa Loco then double walks up the field. Baby Cade double walks up the field near a Sorrow. Nino activates and spends an action point to gain the focus condition, increasing his range to 36 inches. He targets my Sorrow with his rifle. The Woe is in range behind hard cover. For the attack, he flips a 13 plus his skill of 5, giving him an 18 for the attack. The Sorrow flips a 4 plus his defense of 3 for a total of 7. I choose not to cheat the defense. He flips moderate damage plus the critical bonus from the rifle. The Sorrow takes 2 damage because of the incorporeal rule. A Sorrow then activates and double walks up the board. Santiago activates and double walks near the cactus. Teddy activates and double walks near the Sorrow. Francisco activates and performs El Mayor, targeting the judge, giving him a +2 to willpower and defense. Francisco then double walks up the board and performs his 0 action, Finesse. Melee attacks against him suffer a negative flip until the end of the turn. My second Sorrow activates and double walks toward Pandora. The judge double walks behind a building toward the center line. He then performs his 0 action, Stand for Judgment, targeting Perdita. He has range and must meet the target number of 9, which he does. Perdita chooses not to defend and is moved 5 inches toward the judge. Pandora moves up from behind the wall. She takes another walk action toward the center line. She then casts her 0 action, Insight, targeting Santiago. This is an opposed duel against Santiago's willpower. Pandora flips a 2 and Santiago flips a 6. He is winning the duel by 2. Pandora cheats in a 12, bringing her total to a 19. Santiago does not cheat up, so the cast is successful and Santiago is affected by Mood Swing. Since he lost a willpower duel, Pandora can be pushed 4 inches in any direction. She pushes up to the fence to gain hard cover. With her last action, she casts Nullify from her upgrade card, targeting Santiago, who is within range. I flip a 5, he flips a 4. The duel total is 11 versus 9, and Pandora is winning. Santiago cheats up to a 10, bringing his duel total to a 15. Pandora cheats up to an 11, bringing her duel total to a 17. Santiago is now affected by the insignificant condition. Perdita performs Relocate. She discards a card and is pushed up to 8 inches toward Francisco. She then uses her 0 action, Hero's Gamble, and discards all cards in her hand and draws the same number from the deck. Perdita targets Pandora with her Peacebringer and spends a Soulstone to gain a positive flip. Pandora also spends a Soulstone to gain a positive defensive flip. With the hard cover, Perdita makes a straight flip, and Pandora flips 2 cards. The duel total is 9 versus 15, favoring Pandora. Perdita cheats in the red joker, bringing her total to 20, so the attack succeeds by 5. The damage flip is the lowest of 3 cards due to the hard cover. Pandora takes weak damage plus the critical strike bonus for a total of 3 damage. Perdita shoots again. Pandora will spend another Soulstone to defend. Perdita has a negative flip because of hard cover and flips the black joker versus Pandora's 3 for a duel total of 7 versus 10, favoring Pandora. The attack fails. Finally, Perdita attempts to cast Obey on Santiago, but fails to make the target number suit. The Guild Austringer activates and spends an action point to gain the Focus condition, which increases his Raptor's range to 18 inches. He then targets Pandora, not needing line of sight. He gets a positive flip for the Focus and gets a duel total of 20 versus 13, favoring the Austringer. He gets a positive flip for damage, causing moderate damage to Pandora for 3 wounds. Pandora spends a Soulstone to damage prevent and flips a card which reduces the damage by 2, so Pandora only takes 1 point of damage. Turn 2. Candy unburies within her deployment zone. My opponent draws back up to 6 cards, and so do I. We flip for initiative. I win and choose to go first. Pandora activates and targets Papa Loco with Insight. She flips an 11 and he flips an 8 for a duel total of 12 versus 17, favoring Pandora. He does not cheat. Pandora moves as a result of winning a willpower duel. She moves into base contact with a squat marker on the center line and uses an interact action to claim the marker. Pandora then casts Nullify at Papa Loco, who is within range. She flips an 11 versus Papa Loco's 7, bringing the duel total to 16 versus 11, favoring Pandora. Papa Loco is affected by the insignificant condition. Pandora then pushes back toward Candy. She spends her last action point to walk back behind the wall. Santiago activates and performs his 0 action Shrug Off to remove a condition. He discards a card and removes the insignificant condition. Santiago then moves up and targets Teddy with his Peacebringer. He must pass a horror duel first, needing a target number of 13 or better. He passes and continues the attack. He flips a 6 versus my 5 for a duel total of 12 versus 8, favoring Santiago. I choose not to cheat, and my opponent cheats up to an 18 with a critical strike trigger. Teddy's impossible to wound rule causes a negative flip for damage. Santiago flips the Black Joker, and Teddy takes no damage. Baby Kate activates and performs the action Where's Teddy, which places him base to base with a friendly Teddy model. Teddy is then pushed 6 inches up the board. The Guild Austringer attempts to activate, but Pandora forces Papa Loco to activate instead because of the mood swing condition. Papa Loco performs his 0 action, Shrug Off, and discards a card. He then double walks up toward a squat marker. Teddy then activates and declares a charge against Santiago. We flip for the first attack, my 1 versus Santiago's 8, for a duel total of 8 versus 13, favoring Santiago. I cheated up to a 19 and have a straight flip for damage and inflict 6 wounds to Santiago. As the result of the peekaboo trigger, Santiago is then pushed 4 inches in any direction I choose, so I send him toward the cactus. Teddy is then placed in base contact with Santiago. We flip for damage caused by the cactus since it's hazardous terrain. Santiago would take 4 damage, but since he is hard to kill, he is only reduced to 1 wound. Teddy now makes his second melee attack, targeting Santiago. I flip a 9 versus his 4 for a duel total of 16 versus 9, favoring Teddy. Santiago cheats up to an 18, so I cheat up to a 21 with the Red Joker. I have a negative flip for damage, causing 3 wounds, which is enough to kill Santiago. Francisco activates and puts El Mayor on Perdita to increase her defense and willpower. He then targets Teddy with his Peacebringer. But first he has to pass a horror duel, needing a 13 or better. He flips a 1, which does not pass, but then cheats it up to a 20 to pass. Francisco shoots at Teddy, flipping a 2 versus my 8 for a duel total of 8 versus 11, favoring Teddy. He cheats it up to a 19 and the attack connects. Francisco takes a negative damage flip, but still causes severe damage to Teddy, who takes 4 wounds. He shoots again and flips a 5 to my 6 for a duel total of 11 versus 6, favoring Francisco. I cheat up to a 13 and the shot misses. Candy activates and casts Goodie Basket on Pandora. I need a target number of 9 with the ram suit, which I have to cheat in. Then I flip for minor healing, which I cheat up to moderate. Pandora heals 3 damage. She then double walks toward Papa Loco. Nino activates and targets Teddy, needing to pass a horror duel, which he makes easily. The attack gains a positive flip because of the weapon. He flips a 7 versus my 3 for a duel total of 12 versus 6, favoring Nino. It's a negative flip for damage and Teddy takes 1 wound. Nino shoots again and the duel total is 14 versus 11, favoring Nino. It's a double negative flip for damage and Teddy takes 1 wound. A Sorrow activates and moves to the edge of the forest. The Judge activates and double walks toward the squat marker. My other Sorrow moves up and casts Misery Loves Company on Teddy. I need a target number of 10, so I need at least a 5 from the deck, which I just make. The Sorrow is placed in base contact with Teddy. The Austringer activates and targets the Sorrow. He flips a 10 versus my 5 for a duel total of 17 versus 8. It's a straight flip for damage, and the Sorrow takes 1 wound. He shoots again. The duel total is 12 to 16, favoring the Sorrow, so the attack misses. Perdita targets Teddy with a shot. Aura Ancestral allows her to ignore the horror duel. She flips an 11 versus my 9 for a duel total of 12 versus 18, favoring Perdita. It's a negative flip for damage, but she pulls the red joker, causing severe damage plus 2 critical damage for a total of 7 wounds to Teddy, which is enough to kill him. Perdita now targets the Sorrow, and the duel total is 17 versus 12, favoring Perdita. The Witched Bullet trigger negates the negative flip, and the Sorrow takes weak damage, which still kills him. Perdita then moves up the field. Turn 3. We complete the draw phase, and my opponent draws back up to 6 cards. And so do I. We flip for initiative, and my opponent wins and chooses to go first. Papa Loco activates and moves into base contact with the squat marker. He then makes an interact action to claim the marker. Candy moves up slightly and targets Papa Loco with self-loathing. I flip an 8 versus his 2 for a duel total of 13 versus 6, favoring Candy. It's a straight damage flip and I pull the black joker, so Papa Loco takes no damage. She targets him again with the same action and the duel total is 14 versus 10, favoring Candy. Papa Loco does not cheat, but Candy cheats it up to a 17. It's a straight flip for damage, and I pull a weak card, which I cheat up to a severe. Papa Loco takes 6 damage from Dynamite Punch. Francisco activates and positions up to take aim at the Sorrow, who is in soft cover. He flips a 1 versus my 3 for a duel total of 7 versus 6, favoring Francisco. I cheat up to a 9, causing the attack to miss. Francisco performs his 0-action Finesse again and discards a card. Baby Kate activates and double walks up to a squat marker. Nino activates and targets Baby Cade with his rifle. He has a built-in positive flip, and the duel total is 15 versus 16, favoring Baby Cade. Nino cheats it up to a 16, and Baby Cade then cheats up to a 17, causing the shot to miss. Nino fires again. The duel total is 13 versus 11, favoring Nino. Baby Cade cheats up to a 14, and the shot misses. The Sorrow activates and casts Misery Loves Company on Baby Cade and move into base contact with Cade. As his second action, the Sorrow claims the squat marker. The Judge activates and claims the squat marker for Guild. Pandora activates and moves toward Papa Loco. She then targets him with self-harm. Since he is engaged with Candy, we must flip to see who is actually the target of the attack. A card is placed for Candy and Papa Loco. The low card is the target, in this case, Papa Loco. I flip a 5 versus his 1 for a duel total of 11 versus 15, favoring Pandora. The attack hits, and Pandora is pushed 4 inches for winning a willpower duel. The damage is a straight flip, and I pull a severe card which causes 5 damage to Papa Loco from his own dynamite, which kills him in a spectacular explosion that catches Candy for 5 damage. He is also declared the sucker for the Frame for Murder scheme, which scores 3 victory points to Guild because he was killed by a master and it was done before turn 4. Pandora uses her final action to tow into the forest. The Austringer activates and spends an action point to focus, which increases his range to 18. He then targets the Sorrow with his Raptor. He flips a total of 14 versus 7, favoring the Austringer. It is a straight flip for damage, and he flips a weak, which he cheats up to a moderate, causing 2 damage to the incorporeal Sorrow. Perdita activates and targets Baby Cade with her Peacebringer. The duel total is 8 versus 15, favoring Cade. She cheats it up to a 15 with a critical strike. It's a double negative flip for damage, and she causes moderate damage +1 to Baby Cade, who takes 5 wounds. Perdita shoots again. It's an 11 versus 18 favoring Cade, so the shot misses. Perdita shoots again. It's now 18 versus 15 favoring Perdita, and the shot goes through. Witched Bullet negates the negative flip. Perdita causes severe damage, which is enough to kill Baby Cade. He was the target of the bodyguard scheme, which has now failed. At the end of the turn, we each scored 1 victory point for squatters' rights. The Guild has 4 victory points, and Neverborn has 1 victory point. Turn 4. We complete the draw phase, and my opponent draws back up to 6 cards. And so do I. We flip for initiative, and my opponent wins and chooses to go first. She announces that the Judge is the bodyguard for her scheme, and since he is still alive, she earns 1 victory point. Francisco activates and puts El Mayor on Perdita again. He then shoots at the Sorrow. The duel total is 19 versus 3, favoring Francisco. It's a positive flip for damage, and the Sorrow takes severe damage and dies. Francisco moves up to the squat marker and uses his 0 action Finesse again, and discards a card. Candy activates and moves up to the squat marker and uses an interact action to claim the marker. She then attempts to cast Goodie Basket on herself, needing a target number 9 or better with the ram suit. I don't get the suit, so I cheat it in. Now I flip for the heal, which is weak, so I cheat it up to a severe and heal Candy for 3 points. Nino activates and targets Candy. He gets a positive flip for the attack and flips a 5 versus my 3 for a duel total of 10 versus 9, favoring Nino. I cheated up to a 15. Nino then cheats up to a 16. The attack connects with a negative flip for damage. He causes weak +2 from the critical strike total. Candy takes 3 points of damage. He shoots at Candy again. I spend a Soulstone to defend. We both flip 2 cards, taking the better. The duel total is 18 versus 15, favoring Candy. Nino cheats in with the red joker, bringing his total to 19, so the shot connects. He has a double negative flip for damage. He flips weak damage +2 from the critical strike total. Candy takes 3 wounds. Pandora activates and walks up. She then targets Francisco with Insight. He has +2 willpower because of Perdita's upgrade. The duel total is 14 versus 19, and the spell fails. Pandora moves up behind the cactus patch and targets Francisco with self-harm. She spends a Soulstone to gain a positive flip on the attack. The duel total is 19 versus 20, favoring Francisco, so the attack fails. The Austringer activates and performs Deliver Orders, targeting Francisco, which allows him to make an interact action and claim the squat marker. Perdita activates and draws a bead on Pandora, who has soft cover. The duel total is 11 versus 21, favoring Pandora. The shot misses. Pandora immediately pushes toward the hard cover. Perdita shoots again and spends a Soulstone to negate the negative flip. The duel total is 10 versus 15, favoring Pandora. Perdita cheats up to a 16. Pandora then cheats up to 17, and the attack misses. Perdita shoots again, and the duel total is 13 versus 15, favoring Pandora, so the attack misses. The judge activates and passes on all actions. We each score another victory point for squatters' rights. Guild has 6 victory points, and Neverborn has 2. Turn 5. We complete the draw phase, and my opponent draws back up to 6 cards. And so do I. We flip for initiative, and my opponent wins, and chooses to go first. Francisco activates and shoots at Pandora. The total is 16 versus 20, favoring Pandora. She pushes away a little. Francisco shoots again, getting a total of 7 versus 15, favoring Pandora. She then pushes up toward the squat marker. Pandora activates and uses her zero-action Insight on Perdita. We flip a duel total of 15 versus 13, favoring Perdita. I cheat up to a 19, and Perdita gains the condition Mood Swing. Pandora pushes up and is now within 6 inches of Perdita, and casts Those Who Dwell Within. Perdita spends her last Soulstone to defend. The duel total is 16 versus 19, favoring Perdita. I cheat up to a 19 to match and declare the trigger Obscene Knowledge. I flip a triple negative for damage, causing 1 point of damage to Perdita. Pandora then casts Self-Harm at Perdita. Our duel total is 10 versus 9, favoring Pandora. Perdita cheats up to a 17. Pandora also cheats up to a 17. It's a double negative flip for damage. Perdita hits herself for 2 damage, plus 1 point for losing a willpower duel within 6 inches of Pandora. Pandora casts Self-Harm again. She spends her last Soulstone to gain a positive flip. She flips the red joker and wins with a duel total of 20 versus 14. Perdita takes a point of damage for losing the willpower duel. It's a straight damage flip for damage from the spell, and I flip a moderate card, which I cheat up to a severe, which causes 5 damage, which should kill her. Except Perdita then discards her upgrade, Badge of Office, and only takes 1 point of damage. Perdita now activates and shoots at Pandora. The duel total is 8 versus 16, favoring Pandora. The attack fails, and Perdita takes a point of damage for losing a willpower duel. Perdita shoots again, this time flipping a 20 versus 9, favoring Perdita. I cheat up to a 14 so she doesn't get a positive flip. It's a straight flip for damage, and Pandora takes severe +1 from the critical strike, for a total of 6 damage. Perdita shoots a third time, and the total is 16 versus 15, favoring Perdita. It's a negative flip for damage, and Pandora takes a weak 2 points of damage. Perdita then uses her 0 action, Hero's Gamble, to discard her hand and draw new cards. Candy activates and casts Goodie Basket, targeting herself. But she does not pull the ram's suit she needs. She casts again, and this time it succeeds. She flips a weak and only heals for 1 point. Candy then uses her 0 action to run away home and is buried. The judge activates and passes on all his actions. Nino activates and targets Pandora with his rifle and gets a positive flip. The duel is a 15 versus 18, favoring Nino. The attack hits for a negative flip on damage. He flips weak damage plus the critical strike, causing 2 damage to Pandora, which kills her. She was the sucker for Frame for Murder, but is only worth 1 victory point. The Austringer activates and performs Deliver Orders on Perdita. She is pushed 2 inches and chooses not to take an interact action. We each score 1 victory point for squatters' rights. We now flip to see if the game will continue for another round, needing a 10 or higher to continue. I flipped a 2, so the game is now over and we tally victory points. The final score is Guild with 9 and Neverborn with 4. Oh, how the Neverborn hate those Ortegas. It was my first game in a few months, so it's a bit rough around the edges, but overall I think it's a pretty interesting game. My opponent Chrissy was nice enough to sit down with me afterward and discuss the game in a little more detail. So we just finished up our game of Malifaux. It was Perdita versus Pandora. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the strategy and the list building and all that for it. So the main strategy was squatters' rights. Right. So it was on a diagonal deployment. So we had these squat markers along the diagonal of it. How did you end up choosing your list?
I choose my list around the schemes and strategies that we did have to choose from. So squatters' rights, I made sure that I had models that could move quick enough to get there, but also strong enough to be able to hold up that area, so that I can kind of keep you from reclaiming that marker. For my strategies, I chose things that, I chose Frame for Murder on Papa Loco because he's destined to die. And
it is what everybody wants to do to him.
Yeah, people see him and they want to kill him as fast as possible, so that's typically what I do if that's an option. And I chose Bodyguard, and I put it on the Judge, which is from the Lady J crew. He's hard to wound and hard to kill, and I put some armor on him, so I beefed him up, and then didn't really play with him too much, kind of kept him back.
Yeah, you did have a couple more models, I think, than myself on it. I had about 6 I was running, I think.
Yeah.
So, and then you had what, like 8?
Well, I only ended up having 7 because remember the enslaved Nephilim didn't quite make it to the board as planned.
There was an intention for an additional model and then ran out of points.
I ran out of points, and forgot all about him.
Yeah.
And yeah, activation control is really important. So out-activating your opponent is something that I try to do.
Right.
So if I can get one more model up on you, that's one more activation that you don't have.
Unless I kill him.
And then you kill it out and you even the playing.
But then she just started killing all my models, which is what I expected. Like, Perdita versus Pandora is a little bit of a hard matchup. So we both ended up choosing the same exact schemes, the bodyguard and the frame for murder.
Right.
So I put frame for murder on Pandora because I was like, she's probably going to die to Perdita. So I kind of threw her up there more toward the end. My crew is just really slow. Like, those Soros, they only have a 3-inch walk. And so, like, trying to get to things can be really difficult. And the Misery Loves Company ability, where you can get to base with another model, while very helpful, I still have to be at least within 8 inches. And those things have such a terrible defense that it's really easy to get shot off the board. And I know there were some issues early on with, like, hoping we had enough terrain on the board.
Yep.
So we were trying to work with that as well, because for the theme, there was just only so much stuff we could put out. So yeah, I mean, as far as that one, I guess.
I mean, the Sorrows were, I mean, they're good if you're going against a shooting crew, because then it takes half damage from the incorporeal.
Yeah.
So that's good. But yeah, the 8-inch bubble, Pandora, needs that grouping of her Sorrows and them together to really be able to whittle you down on your wins.
Very effectively. Although Pandora did, like, get real close with Perdita if you didn't have that upgrade. She was gonna make Perdita shoot herself in the head. So.
Yeah, gotta love Badge of Office.
That was really good.
It's a strong upgrade that I almost forgot about.
Yeah, and so, I don't know, I'm still learning the game, so it was an interesting, it's always interesting, like, trying to play to the strategy and the schemes, so I made a point not to lose on at least the strategy part, so I was pretty pleased with that. Now, whenever you're picking your models also, you had a pretty big crew to pull from, like.
Yeah, I have a good chunk of the guild, which makes it easier for me to build my crew around my objectives.
All right. So would you recommend, like, anybody else who's, like, kind of building their crew, they keep a pretty large repertoire to choose from? Yeah,
I think that if you have the majority of a faction, it makes you more well-rounded when you're going into your game. You know, instead of saying, well, I have this box crew, so I have to play this box crew, and I have this one additional model, and hopefully it's successful. Instead, you have all these other models, and you can say, well, I have this strategy or this scheme, and if I hire these models, it'll be better to accomplish this goal.
Right. Now, I know one of the tricky things is you build the list after you know your strategy and the schemes, right?
Yep.
And the opponent faction? You
announce factions before that. So you go into your scheme and strategy and knowing that you're playing Neverborn.
Okay.
So you knew I was playing Guild, I knew you were playing Neverborn, and I was like, well, she's probably going to willpower me to death, so I made sure that I also hired Perdita with more willpower boost. You know, she has an upgrade that gives an 8-inch aura, +2 willpower to, you know, her friendly family models, which is pretty good. And so once again, I'm trying to keep certain things inside of an 8-inch bubble too.
Yeah.
So she can get that bonus.
Right. And then, like, whenever you're building it, do you normally kind of approach it from having a core list of models, and then you take your extra ones like an Austringer or whatever else is going to be really useful for that scenario?
Yeah.
It seems weird to just, like, take every single piece, you know, looking at the schemes and scenarios, and every single model is just designed for that. Like, it seems like you would always want to have a core that you start with.
I do typically. I'm trying to branch out from that.
Yeah.
I used to just hire the Perdita box and take an Austringer because they're great. Or take a Perdita box and a Peacekeeper. Yeah. Because, you know, Peacekeeper's amazing, but he's also very expensive.
Right.
And not family, so he doesn't really work with the synergy of my crew.
Yeah.
But I am trying to be more well-rounded. You know, like when I pulled out my models to choose from, you saw I had some Death Marshals out there. I had, you know, other, I think I had some Witchling Stalkers. I had the Peacekeeper. I wanted to pull out Samuel just in case, you know, I wanted to shoot things with Samuel.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's nice to have that option. To think, well, who has, you know, the highest wounds? Who has, you know, for, like I said, for the judge, what made me take him was because he had so many buffs to keep him alive.
Yeah.
And I, you know, bodyguarded him, like thinking, well, it's going to be really hard for him to die.
Yeah. Okay. And you were pretty happy with your Soulstone cache? I think you started with, what, 5?
No, I only had 3.
Oh, you did only have 3?
Which was out of the norm for me. I'm typically I usually bring a lot of Soulstones in, but I'm trying to get better about hiring more models to give myself more activations and not needing to rely on those Soulstones as much. Just having a few in case I need to save somebody's life.
Yeah. No, I always bring full Soulstone cash. I don't want to ever rely on the cards and stuff. So anyway, thank you very much for the game. It was very informative and all that. So.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we'll see you next time.
Bye.